What is going on, YouTube? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards. Back for a non-sports card video. What? I know. So once again, we're going to do something a little different today. I did the video last week about the Marvel sealed product that went way up since I bought it. And spent most of the weekend actually looking more at Marvel stuff than sports cards. And the prices continue to go absolutely insane on this stuff. And it all just started within the last, it's been creeping up slowly, but it has really ballooned in the last 7 to 14 days ish. And mostly in the last week. Right prior to me making that video, prices really went crazy. So I made that video and I've been talking to some people and I've been getting lots of questions about it. So I figured it was worth its own thing to do a little bit of a deep dive and just give you guys some base level info, what to look out for, what to maybe avoid, or just what to know going in. So little background, as I mentioned in that video, if you didn't see that one from last week, I am almost 40 years old. When most of this stuff came out, I was 10 to 13, and this was my 10 to 13. I spent years putting these things together as a kid, chasing them, going to card shops, going to flea markets, going to comic book stores, buying singles, binders everywhere, which I still have to this day. And I pulled some of that stuff out, which you can see sitting on top of the boxes here. And then earlier this year, right at the very beginning of the pandemic, I got back into comic books a little bit. And that kind of led me down the path of, man, I used to really love buying these Marvel cards. This was early pandemic. Let me get some boxes to rip, and this will be great. Like, let me buy some sealed boxes. I'll spend like a whole weekend just ripping packs, going through, trying to put sets together, even though I already had sets. And like I said, I have the original sets, but as you can see, here's one of my original cards. These things are beat to hell. Look at that corner there on that Venom. That is beat up. These things are beat to crap. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it here, but there are some nice creases there on old Cyclops. So back in the spring, I decided, let's buy some sealed boxes and rip them. Well, I bought the boxes and I never ripped them. I just set them there and then got distracted by other stuff, pushed them off to the side and never got around to it. Well, then I decided to take a peek and see what these things were going for. And I realized, boy, did they shoot up. So some of you might be looking at this video, and if you're around my age, you're seeing the 3 boxes that I have laid out on the table, and already your childhood is coming back to you and coming back to you very quickly. So the things that have shot up the most are this in particular. Marvel Series 1, Marvel's Universe Series 1 from 1990. Now, there are earlier sets than this. There are sticker sets from 67, I believe, and a card set from 66. I might have that backwards. They're obviously extremely hard to find. They are selling relatively well. Their prices are up, but this is the set that's really taking off. And I think it has to do with just the general wave that is sweeping collectibles in general. Like we saw it with sports cards, then it kind of went to Pokemon, and now it's kind of trickling down to other things. Combo that with the popularity of graded cards, specifically PSA 9s and 10s. You think pop counts are low on some sports cards, like when they're in the hundreds or even sub 1,000, you're like, that's a low pop count. Come over to these, most of the pop counts are single digits or under 10 on a lot of these. Just no one who would think to grade this stuff. And it was ripped by kids, thrown in binders, thrown in boxes, etc., etc. It is very hard to find good, clean, raw copies of this stuff, just buying them loose. Can you? I'm sure, but it's tough. One, like I said, they're beat to hell. Two, What's the first thing you notice about this card? 4 white borders. If you're here from the sports card realm, think of the last 2 years of Optic and how hard they are on centering from those white borders. Well, now you have it here. So these are really tough on centering. They're paper cards, so corners obviously get dinged up a lot easier than on a chrome card. They're semi-surface sensitive, not like a chrome card would be, but like a paper card would be. And they just haven't been treated well, the ones that are in the wild. So people saw what graded cards were going for, and this, the Stan Lee one, is kind of what, and I don't have these sleeves or anything, because like I said, these are beat to hell. This card right here is kind of the one that set things off. The Stan Lee Mr. Marvel card and a PSA 10, and we'll look at pricing here in a minute. I'll flip over to my computer desktop and not my desktop. Started creeping up in PSA 10. There's about 20 of those on the pop count. That's the most graded card. And one popped for around $1,000. And then more of this stuff in PSA 10s started going up, selling for a few hundred. And then, a Wolverine just went for 800. A Spider-Man went for over 1,100 in a PSA 10. And once again, very low pop counts. So people realize you can't buy these in the wild. And then the sealed wax prices took off. This box I bought in March, maybe February, or no, March, maybe April, for a little over $100. Right after I bought it, and this was early pandemic, they shot up to about $200 or $300, and then they kind of stayed there. Really wish I would have bought another one. Now, every day, this box sets a new record for pricing. They were $900, then they blew through $1,000, and then I'm recording this Sunday afternoon. Sunday morning, one ended at auction at over $1,100. Because people's theory are it's the only way to get good, clean cards to grade. And that's probably true. The tricky part is a lot of these are off-centered when they come straight out of the box, so you got to be careful. The other thing that you get out of these are the holograms, which also sell graded for an astronomical sum of money, even in PSA 8s, BGS 8.5s. We'll look at a Spider-Man BGS 8.5 from the 90 set. Holograms sold for like $800. They are ridiculously off-centered. They came off the worst printer ever, and a lot of times they have surface issues as well. So they are very tough grades. Very tough. So what has happened now it has spilled out to other sets. Now, the Marvel Series 2 set, which was the follow-up to this, came out in 91, are taking off, or starting to. Some of the PSA 10s of these are starting to creep up, not as high as what the 90 stuff is going for, but it could be extremely popular, or extremely profitable, rather. The other thing that's happened is these box prices have shot up now for the same reasons. I bought 2 of these, luckily enough, back in the same time I bought this one. I bought all these at basically the same time. These I paid about $60 to $70 for. I got 2 of them. Right now, they are at almost $300 a box and climbing. Same thing, holograms come out of here, et cetera, et cetera. Once again, we will get into pricing on what this stuff's selling for, but like a PSA 10 Venom or Wolverine is probably at least a couple $100. And with these boxes, they are very small sets. You will usually get duplicates of most cards. So imagine opening a 2019-20 Prism box and getting 2 Zion base rookies out of it and 2 Ja Morant base rookies out of it. That would blow your mind, right? These are like 90 card base sets. And there's 36 packs, and I forget how many cards per pack. It probably says on here somewhere, but I don't want to toss these around too much. Needless to say, you could get at least typically 1 full base set and then quite a few duplicates. I watched some box breaks online on YouTube of the 90s. The guy pulled 4 of these out of there. Now, centering on most of them was bad. It's hard to tell just watching someone on a YouTube video that's just ripping them for fun. This video was recorded a couple years ago, but you can get an idea of how many of those you could pull. How many of them are clean? How many of them the corners are good? Who knows? So this is now starting to filter down to everything. I don't have a box of these and I didn't pull a bunch out, but this is the Series 3 that came out in 92, a Spider-Man card from it. These are now starting to take off in price. These were like 60 to 70 bucks a box. They're now over $100 and some a box. I don't have any here, but one that has really gone crazy is the Marvel Masterpiece set from 92. Those boxes could be had for under 300 bucks, probably even 150 just a month or two ago. Now they're anywhere from 700 to 900. Those are the more, I don't want to call them artsy fartsy cards, but they are much more artwork than comic book art, if that makes sense. To me, I always lean towards these. I never collected the Masterpiece stuff because I read the comics as a kid, so I wanted the art on the cards to look like what I read in the comics, not a legit piece of artwork. Some of the Marvel Masterpiece stuff looks really nice, but those boxes have shot up. We'll talk about those boxes more in a couple minutes because there's something to be very aware of on those boxes that I don't think people are realizing that are buying them, especially if they're buying them to grade. So Series 1, Series 2, and now it's starting to bleed into Series 3. The X-Men sets, which you see over here on the left, this is the classic Jim Lee set from 92, most known for the Deadpool card. This is essentially, sounds weird saying this, Deadpool's rookie card, for lack of a better term. He has one other card that was a promo card out of X-Force #1. Those go for a decent amount graded. They are extremely hard to find. I don't remember the pop count on them, but it has to be ridiculously low, probably single digits, because it was bagged inside of a comic book that was tossed around, and you weren't guaranteed a Deadpool out of every pack. There was a set of them, a set of 8 or 9, I think. So really hard to find. But to me, this is the most iconic non-straight Marvel set. So these sets, you're going to get the whole Marvel universe, Avengers, X-Men, villains, the whole 9 yards. This, just X-Men stuff. These prices have not, they're slowly creeping up. I think these are probably the better one to get into for if you think this market's sustainable. So that's the thing we don't know yet. Is this a flash? Is this just people jumping on board and this is going to last like a month or two? Or is there some legitimacy to this? I could see both sides of the coin. I get it. I could see people saying this is never going to last. Once more of this stuff gets graded, the prices are going to fall and you're going to be stuck. Sure, but Stanley PSA 10's going for well over $1,000. If they drop 50%, it's still a $500 card. That's still pretty good. You know, this Spider-Man PSA 10, $1,200, $1,100, I forget what it sold for. Once again, if it drops 50, 60%, it's still a $400 to $500 card. That's pretty good. That's what a John Morant base Prism basically goes for these days, $500 to $600. Spider-Man's not tearing an ACL. That's what, you know, Gary Vee's famous for saying that. Card Collector 2 had joke t-shirts that said Charizard can't tear his ACL or something. So these have not taken off in price yet, but they are starting to head that direction. If this market holds and Marvel graded cards actually have a niche, we know X-Men movies are coming in a couple years from Marvel. I could see a lot of potential for these as a long-term hold, whether it's sealed or ripping and grading. Because right now, the best cards out of the Marvel Universe sets are Spider-Man, Venom, and any Avenger, and some of the major villains, and Wolverine. If that trickles down and the X-Men stuff starts to hit, this is going to be the iconic box to go for X-Men stuff. Jim Lee was the most popular X-Men artist by far, and his artwork is considered iconic to anyone that is a big follower of the X-Men, and we already know Deadpool is extremely popular. The nice thing about these cards, all of them, it is, though centering is tough, it is easy to tell centering because it is 4 straight sides. On this, I have no idea what the hell's centered and what the hell's not. So, has the ship sailed on this and have you already missed it? I don't know. These at $1,000 a box, I'm going to be honest with you, is either a massive bubble waiting to burst, or one of the best deals out there. I don't know. Here's the thing. If you pull, say, one Spider-Man, one Stan Lee, and here's the thing. There's also 3 Spider-Man cards in this set. There's Cosmic, which is this one, which sells for the most. There's just a base Spider-Man, and then there's one with him in the black suit. Any one of those in a PSA 10 is at least $500, probably, and this one's $1,000. Stan Lee's over $1,000. So if you rip one of these boxes, you only need to get a couple PSA 10s out of an entire box for it to pay for itself, even with grading fees. And I see it like on the Marvel Facebook pages and stuff all the time that I'm in, of people saying, well, but yeah, it takes forever to grade. You're going to get your cards back in 9 months, because they're not integrating like we are from the sports card world. If it was me, and I've strongly considered ripping this box, strongly considered, it's taking everything I have not to absolutely go live on YouTube and just tear into this thing. If I was to rip it, any Spider-Man, Stan Lee, and maybe Venom and Captain America and Iron Man card that I pulled, I would honestly send the PSA at regular service, $50 a card, and get it back in a month or so. Yeah, it might be pricey, and I don't know how many PSA 10s would come out of this box. I really don't. This one, I will tell you right now, I need about 2 people willing to want to watch. Probably not even. One of those could be me. I have 2 of these. I will most likely be ripping one of these on the channel. Whether it's live or pre-recorded, I don't know. I will probably go live and rip it just for the hell of it. Don't know yet. These X-Men boxes, I have 2. I just purchased another one late last week. I will probably rip one of those as well. Once again, I don't know if I'll do it live or if I will do it pre-recorded. We'll see. So these at $1,000 a box, I think half the people are going to tell you you're crazy to either buy it or to buy it and rip it. And then I think another half of people are going to tell you, I think it's a pretty good idea. Because it's not like a box of Prism where you're praying you're going to get a Zion. There's enough hits in there and the checklist is small enough. I know I'm going to open cards that I would want to send in for grading. It's just whether or not they come out clean enough as your gamble. You are going to hit Spider-Man, Wolverine, Avengers characters, Hulk, Iron Man, Cap, whatever. You're going to get them. It's just whether they come out centered well enough or if your whole box is like miscut and everything's off centered. I don't know. That's the tricky part. And then if you get lucky and hit a good hologram that's in decent shape, you can get even a PSA 8 out of it. Now you're off to the races. So, like I said, I think I'm going to rip one of these and see how it goes. Almost positive I'm going to rip one of these. This one is the one that I don't know about yet. I need to see just a little bit more sales data on some PSA 10s. So let's go off of one desktop and go to another. So up here, I have 1990 Marvel PSA 10. Let me zoom in a little bit here for you guys. So once again, I'm recording this Sunday afternoon. So here's some recent PSA 10. I just looked for 10. Actually, this is just straight PSA. Sorry. So I put in 90 Marvel Universe PSA 10. So here is the Wolverine cover. Let me zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Here is Wolverine cover. Because that set had cards of classic covers. PSA 10, $350. Where's some other good ones? Here's a Stan Lee PSA 9, just sold this morning, $450. Captain America PSA 10, $550. Wolverine PSA 10, $800. Spider-Man versus Venom, $500. Here's a PSA 9 for $180. Even if you're paying $50 and you're not even going through a group submitter and you're submitting these yourself, as long as you could pull a handful of cards out of here, I think you're going to come out way ahead. Let me scroll out. Dr. Doom, $450. A Hulk, $350. Here's the Spider-Man that I mentioned before. BGS 8.5. I'm going to pull that up in a different window. $1,100. Spider-Man vs. Hulk, that's only $60, but that's only a PSA 9. PSA 10. Mr. Fantastic. I'm going to scroll down here and see if we could find. Yeah, here's a PSA 8, $1,100 of the Spider-Man hologram. So this got 8585, 8595. So you can see, look at the centering on those, how bad that could potentially be. But also what a nice looking card. Like, how nice is that? That makes me just want to rip this box even more. It really does. Stanley PSA 9, 750. I'm trying to go back. Here's a PSA 9 Cosmic Spider-Man that we talked about before for 250. So now we're going back to earlier, a little bit more mid-January. And then someone started really going nuts on this stuff and bought a bunch of it out because a lot of this stuff was up there fairly cheap. Here's a PSA 10 thing for $78 just on January 21st. I think this cart one already scrolled past one that sold for double or triple that. So this has all really started happening in the last week or two, that this stuff really took off in prices. And like I said, it's been slowly creeping up here and there. Here's a different Wolverine, the patch for $255. So here's sealed box prices. This is the one that ended this morning for the new record. Actually, this is another one that ended this morning. This one went higher than this one. This is the one I was talking about for $1,100. And another one ended right after it for $1,200. So every time one of these sells, it's a new record. Here's 1,000. Here's the Series 3. This is the one that I had the Spider-Man on. That's a little tough to tell centering on for $179. And then here's the 91s. Once again, PSA 10s. There's not a lot of these yet. She-Hulk for $160. I mean, like if a She-Hulk's pulling $160. Marvel Girl, which is Jean Grey, for $95. Here's an Iron Man for $250. Iron Man's armor for $63. That's in a PSA 10, but that's not like his actual card. But yeah, an Iron Man for $250. And then here's their box prices: $280, $260, $290, $250, $280, $280 for Series 2. And these all just sold this morning, actually. Looks like someone put a big run on these, actually, now that I look at this. Because here is the 30th, $280, $280, $250, 31st, $289, $260, $280. Yeah, someone's buying these out, basically. And then we come over here. So let's talk about this for a second. The Marvel Masterpiece ones. So here's the PSA 10 Marvel Masterpiece. This is a 1992 set. And like I said, these have like fancier artwork, but these are going for astronomical sums of money in PSA 10s. So there's 600, 315, a Black Widow for 1,300, a Magneto for 1,300. And their box prices have just gone insane. $700, $800 to $900 for these 92 box prices. Here's the problem with these and a couple other caveats. So let's kind of start to wrap this up. These boxes in particular, all the Marvel Masterpieces from the mid-90s, have major bricking issues. If you don't know what bricking means, it's when you open a pack and the cards are stuck together and you go to peel them apart and you hear that like almost a cracking sound. And it's the cardboard stuck to the card below it. And sometimes when you peel them off, they come off fine. Sometimes it actually either will rip off part of the card from the one underneath it or leave some behind, depending on which side's stuck to which. It is a major concern on these Marvel Masterpiece boxes. If you're going to go into this hard and you're going to go Marvel Masterpiece for this, I would highly recommend watching YouTube box breaks of people opening these. This is like even from a couple years ago, just search for it. You'll find a bunch and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about very, very quickly. And imagine spending $900 on a box and you go to open it and the cards are all stuck together. And usually if one pack's like that, the whole box is like that. And then it'll be varying degrees of how many get stuck. I watched a break the other day that someone did, and about half the box was just trash because they were stuck together. It just had something to do with the coating that they put on the cards, I believe, that caused that to happen. I have a feeling a lot of people buying these have no idea that that's a thing. So it is something to very much keep in the back of your head before you dive into these just blindly. Now, These Marvel Universe ones, the Series 1, Series 2, the X-Men stuff, that's typically not a problem with them because they're just paper cards. I've rarely seen those get stuck together. I mean, there's centering issues and all that, but I haven't necessarily seen that issue. So as much as I would love to buy one of these to rip and the grade, I wouldn't do it. The other thing to stay away from, and this is across the board, almost every one of these sets, Marvel Universe, X-Men, Marvel Masterpiece, anything that you would look at has usually compiled sets. They usually came in tins and they were usually numbered. A lot of people were buying those up because they're still sealed. So they're thinking, nice pack fresh, all in a set. This will be great. However, those cards notoriously come out of those sets beat to hell because they are literally, in some cases, they're just in like a cardboard wrapper and just thrown in the tin. And these things get tossed around. And I've seen lots of breaks of these where the corners are beat to hell. And it's one of those things where if one card's bad, they're all probably bad in regards to getting beat up. So be very wary going out and buying complete sets thinking you're getting a good deal. Now, maybe you get lucky and the set that you get is in really good shape and well centered and you hit the mother load, but I don't think that's worth the risk. And with the Marvel Masterpieces, you have the same risk of the cards sticking together. But you can see these Marvel Masterpieces for that very reason sell for a lot. Like, look at this Venom right here, $1,000. Great looking card. Looks really cool with that red background. Now, there's some other sets. The 92 one's the iconic one. 96 is also iconic. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the reasons on that. We've talked long enough. There's also Precious Metals, PMG by Fleer, which are extremely high priced and super niche. And they were high priced before this because of their super limited print run. You'll see big sums of money going for those cards as well. For me personally, I'm going to dive into this a little bit, play around with it. I am sticking to these Marvel Universe, maybe some Series 3, but I think 1 and 2, and this X-Men set. Because I think most people that are going to turn to these to pick them up are going to be like me, and they're going to want the nostalgia factor. And this is what I collected as a kid. And now to have, you know, a Cosmic Spider-Man and a PSA 10, or a Wolverine or a Deadpool and a PSA 10, that sounds kind of cool to me. I'm not going to lie. As someone that's big in the sports cards and also big in the comic books and grew up on this, as much as I dabbled in sports cards as a little kid, I've spent more time on these than sports cards as a 10 to 13 year old. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I would expect I'll do at least a couple more videos on this, depending on what you guys want to see. Or actually, probably regardless, I'm going to do more on this because I want to do them. So we'll talk about this Marvel stuff in the future. Like I said, I think this is still the tip of the iceberg. Where it goes from here, I don't think we know. I could easily see me looking up box prices on this Marvel Universe Series 1 in a month, and it's a $500 box again, or it's a $2,000 box again. Neither side would shock me. I'm not going to lie. But this market just took off in the last few weeks. I don't see it ending anytime soon because the pop counts are still going to be limited. And I know that these sets had huge print runs, but how many of them got ripped and how many of them were well kept after they got ripped, and how many sealed are still laying around out there, especially with this rush on buying them. Yeah, there was a ton of them sitting out on the market 2 months ago when no one really wanted them, except someone every once in a while would want a fun trip down memory lane. Now, all of a sudden, they're getting bought out at a rapid pace, and the inventory is not there to meet that demand. So that's my thoughts on it. That's what I'm going to do with it. I'm sticking to these three. This one could already be overpriced. This one, I think, could still be a little bit too cheap. This one, the X-Men one, I think is definitely way too cheap. Let me make full size here again to close this bad boy out. But I could be wrong. Who the hell knows? This is kind of uncharted waters, but the kid in me really enjoys these waters, so we're going to swim in them for a while. That's all I got for you guys today. We will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.